Hello, all. Welcome to the fifth episode of Sustainability Simply Put Talk series, where today we have a guest, Raveena. So, let me just quickly introduce Raveena. She is a practicing architect who designs sustainable buildings, and also she is academician. She has a bachelor's degree in architecture from RV College in Bangalore. She did her environmental management course in Indian Institute of Science, where her dissertation topic was on planning, policy, and program of sustainable cities, and where I came to know Raveena. So we were a batchmate in environmental management course of 2019, right? So it's a pleasure to have you here, Raveena. Welcome.
Hello, Danaji.
And thank you so much for agreeing to participate in this talk series where we will be discussing about sustainable buildings and green building. So my first question to you is, whenever we talk about sustainable architecture, we have a question: what is sustainable building? What is green building? So if you can just share that quickly with us.
So, sustainable architecture is architecture that responds to the site, that responds to natural resources used in the building, and it also looks at the sustainable lifestyle of the building as well, that during the life cycle of the building. So, if there is rainwater that is used, if the wastewater can be reused, so it even looks at how the building runs after it has been occupied. We can also look at sustainable use of sustainable energy like solar energy to run the building. So these are all features of sustainable buildings.
Okay. And when we talk about sustainable building, as you rightly said, so these are the components. So is it like that? So we have to design sustainable buildings at the start design phase itself, or is this also correct that if I have a building which is not sustainable, okay, which is not green building as such thought of when in conception phase, I have constructed it, but then I want to convert it to green building. So is it also possible?
It is possible. We can add solar power, you can add various features, but it's always better to design it in the earlier stage so that it can be included within the aesthetics of the building itself. So it does not, you don't have extra work and it's not seen separately from the main construction. It's always better to plan it well in advance.
Right, right. And when we are talking about green building, so there is, I guess, some LEED certification, LEED. So if you can share a little bit about that also.
Yeah. So LEED certification stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's basically a certification that is given to buildings that are sustainable. And there are different rating systems and there are different points that are earned depending on how sustainable the building is. There are various categories that is looked at for this rating system. The categories are sustainable sites, water efficiency, energy and atmosphere, materials and resources, indoor environmental quality, and innovation in operations and regional priority. And depending on how many points the building gets, it is classified as silver, gold, different levels of the points. And platinum will be the highest.
Is it applicable all over the world, or how is it?
Yes. So the LEED certification is basically by the US Green Building Council. But they have branches everywhere, all over the world. Even India has a branch. So this certification is applied to buildings all over the world.
Okay. So in that case, because I'm asking this question, because let's say if you talk about European nations where it is required, the requirements are different. For Indian scenario, the requirements are different, but we simply copy the things from the West. So that is the case. So in that case, I guess a regional differentiation is required. So how do we take care of that in green buildings, or if you can say LEED certification?
So always a building is more sustainable if it does not use too much of artificial energy. So depending on the context where the building is located, suppose it's in a cold country, then you wanted more heat and more light. So then you design the buildings accordingly. And if it is in a hot country, there are ways to design it such that there's good ventilation. So that would probably give it better points. in both cases, the design method is different, but you're achieving energy efficiency.
Right. So in this scenario, can you please share us some of the examples of, let's say, different construction methods or different maybe the material that we use for the construction, so that will have impact on the greenness of building.
So this is a method of building called the rat trap bond.
Mm-hmm.
This can be used in India also, and this is used by Laurie Baker in Kerala.
Okay.
He was an architect who was into sustainable building. So he looked at cost-effective building basically.
Mm-hmm.
And here, if you look at the bricks, there's a gap in between the bricks. So
Mm-hmm.
this gap helps in creating an air cavity, which helps in insulation. So suppose it is hot outside. So by the time the heat gets transferred inside, there is more time if you build like this, because there's a gap, and the change in the material helps the building to be more cooler inside. It just works like how a blanket works. If you wear 2 layers of clothing or 2 layers of blanket during winter time, you're much more warmer. So the same concept is used here.
And I guess I just remember some topic of heat transfer from my graduation. So I guess the heat transfer from solid medium. So if it would have been a complete brick, then the heat transfer would have been direct. But as the air cavity is there, so heat will not transfer. The amount will also reduce and the time will also increase for that.
Correct.
That's interesting.
Then there's also a method of filler slab roof. This is also used by Laurie Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Here you're reducing the amount of concrete that is used in the slab.
Okay.
Basically,
How is it?
Yeah. So here we are replacing the concrete with more sustainable materials like terracotta. These are tiles, actually, roof tiles that is used here. You can also use pots, terracotta pots. There are people who even use waste material over there, like waste keyboards. I've seen different options like that. Basically, you do not require concrete to do anything at the bottom of the slab. On the top of the slab, the concrete works in countering compression, but at the bottom of the slab, it tends to get stretched when a load comes on it from the top. So basically that needs to counter tension, and concrete is good for compression and not for tension. For tension you have steel, so that is why there's steel at the bottom of the slab whenever if you've seen a construction happening.
Right. They have a mesh of, yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
So the steel is doing the job at the bottom of the slab, and the concrete is doing the job at the top of the slab. So you don't actually need concrete at the bottom of the slab. So that is where you can explore using other materials instead of concrete. Okay. So you're filling the slab with other materials. So that's why it's called the filler slab.
Okay, right.
You can also use a brick jali. This is also a building by Laurie Baker. It allows natural air inside, and there's effective regulation of the temperature.
Okay, right. So how many, let's say, layers are required for this? Or is it a single or double layer? That is also.
This can be used in the balcony area when you want natural ventilation to happen. So this can be used in the balcony or maybe a veranda area.
Right.
Spaces like that.
Perfect. Yes.
This one layer should be fine. Then also the use of natural ventilation is important. This is a tube house in Ahmedabad by the architect Charles Correa. So over here, hot air rises through vents on the top of the building and goes out like that. Okay. And cool air is pulled in through the windows. So this building basically uses natural ventilation and not much of AC and all that. So this is a very sustainable building.
So I guess there are two methods, active and passive. Maybe it is heating or cooling. So active heating and passive heating. So if you can tell us the basic difference and just a short, what is exactly?
Yeah. So active cooling might include the use of ACs and all that. Passive cooling is when you're not actively trying to move air using any artificial methods. You're just opening the window and opening the vents, and the air is pulled in because of the natural pressure difference. Yeah. The heat and the pressure difference are related. So usually hot air is lighter and it rises up.
Right.
Automatically it rises up, and cool air is drawn into the building.
Okay.
You can even have pipes running from the ground, carrying water and going throughout the building. So these pipes get cooled when the water goes down into the earth, and that same cool water can cool the rest of the building. So that also works as a passive cooling method.
Right, and I can see on the screen. So this is the building. Actually, it looks right. It's a slant at the top.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, this is interesting. So I guess we should move towards natural solutions as much as possible. So passive heating, passive cooling should be the new cool thing, right?
Yeah. We can also respond to the site. So suppose the site has a natural slope. Instead of changing the soil over there and adjusting the soil to make it flat, we can also build in different levels so that it works with the existing site slope. So this is an example of a building that works with the existing site slope. There's a mountainous rocky site.
Right.
And this building is the Thermi and Vals by the architect Peter Zumthor. And you can also respond to the climate by building sunken spaces. So this is also better insulated. This building is the Sangat office by architect V.V. Doshi. Here the spaces are built underneath the ground level. So that helps in natural cooling. And there is white mosaic that is used on the roof. So this reflects sunlight and heat, keeping it cool. And the weather in Ahmedabad is quite hot. So this building responds to the climate in Ahmedabad.
And what about lighting and ventilation for such kind of structures?
Yeah, you can get ventilation. If you notice these windows, it's on the top. Can you see these windows? So that you get natural ventilation through these.
Okay, perfect. Yes.
Then there's also rainwater harvesting. So there's you get recharge pits where you're recharging the groundwater with rainwater, and you can also reuse the rainwater for the functioning of the building, like watering plants and different functions. You can reuse the rainwater.
So here my question would be, as a practicing architect, so maybe you can share us what is the difference of costing? Maybe if we have the rechargeable pit, or if we are using the water for the functioning of the building, and how much is the benefit out of that? Because maybe financially, if we discuss that, so maybe it will have more appeal.
It works similar to a solar power building, where there's an initial cost in the initial part of the construction, but that is very minimal if you look at the overall building life period, when you're getting energy like electricity and water for almost free. Your water, you're just recycling whatever you're getting from the rain, so you won't have a water bill for some time. The same with electricity and solar power, where you do not have a solar bill. You do not have an electricity bill. In fact, you will be actually giving back to the grid, and you can actually make money from that. Then there are even methods to save water, like you get dual flushes. You get dual flushes which does not use up too much of water in the smaller option, and then you get a larger flush which has more water. So you do not always use the one which uses a lot of water.
Right. So my next question would be, as you are a practicing architect, I have a question that what are the challenges that you have to face?
So sometimes a green building may not be easy to construct. So sometimes if you have to retain an existing feature on the site, it might be more difficult to actually execute it than if you were not retaining, like for example, a tree. So you need a lot of practical aspects. You need to leave enough space around the tree. You need to uh, think of a solution where the building and the tree does not clash, and it allows for the tree to grow. And if you are designing a semi-open space that retains the tree, you need to also make sure you get enough of light and soil around the tree. So what happened in one of the executions was the contractor preferred to just cut off the tree and then try to tile it up. So we managed to retain only one tree. There were two trees in that area that we wanted to retain. So we managed to retain only one tree. Then a lot of people are not really aware of all the sustainable options. And also the cost is another factor. Usually there is an initial investment cost, like solar power. If you have to install solar panels, maybe for a house, a 60/40 house, if you need almost 3 to 5 kilowatts of solar power, you might have an investment of about 3 to 5 lakhs. So that additional cost is something that people may not want to spend initially. Although this can be recovered later on during the life cycle of the building, your electricity bills will be free, and you can even give back the electricity to the grid, and you can actually make money that way.
So maybe the reluctance is because of already people are spending for the construction and all. So again, they have to spend it. So
it just increases the cost. So, and especially if a lot of people construct for, they are renting the house, if they want to rent the house out, they do not want to spend too much on additional sustainable features.
The positive experiences or case stories where you see hope in the future. So we would like to hear that as well.
Yeah, so this is again one of the projects where I convinced the client that we could try to retain a tree on the site and try to build around it. So the client agreed with that. So that was a good aspect. And we also use solar power in that project. And we try to use the space beneath the solar panels, so that space was also functional. The solar panels were raised up. So there are ways to design so that it works well with the main function of the building.
Right. So my next question would be, because as you're working for environmental conservation, I would say the one way which is possible by your profession. So how did you came to in this profession, and what motivated you to contribute towards environment? So if you can share some of the resources or some books or some podcasts which influence you, so that will be great for all of us.
So these are some books that talk about different sustainable materials, sustainable methods. Laurie Baker by Gautam Bhatia, The Life and Works and Writings of Laurie Baker. And there's also a book by TVR, so that is TV Ramachandra sir.
Right.
Environmental management. So there's a chapter on environmental design in this book. And there's also a lot of practical ways you can learn about sustainability and environment. So there were a lot of workshops that I had participated in. So at the Laurie Baker Center, they have a lot of hands-on building programs where you can actually make things with your hands. You can learn. You can learn by practicing. You can learn by building, with getting your hands dirty and building. You can learn.
As you call it, learn by doing, right?
Yes, it's
very
learning
popular
by doing,
nowadays. Yeah.
Learning by doing and learning by getting your hands dirty.
Yes.
So this is a Fuller's Lab roof construction that they are showing over here. The students are building it. Then there is also Auroville, that is in Pondicherry. There's Auroville Earth Institute, where there are a lot of hands-on construction workshops. So here they are making a compressed, stabilized earth block construction. There's a dome structure that is being made with CSEB blocks. Then Indian Institute of Science also has hands-on workshops. So there was a workshop a few years ago on low carbon construction materials. They keep on repeating this workshop every year. So I read it a few years ago. So there also they were building, and we could watch it practically being made. They use different sustainable technologies.
So here my question would be, because as it is a green building, right? So that is locally sourced material should be used, right? So can we replicate the same model all over the world, all over India? India is a diverse country, right? So will it be a green building? So I would like quick your thoughts on this topic as well.
Yeah, India is a very diverse country. We have very different climates and very different soil types also in each of these places.
Mhm.
So you may not use the same material, because maybe there are parts of Assam that use a lot of bamboo. Maybe bamboo is easily available there. Sometimes the transport cost might be balanced out with other
Mhm.
costs, and sometimes the cost of constructing with the green building maybe even more, because there's more labor involved. Even if your material costs less, the labor might be more labor intensive, the process. So there are a lot of factors that are there. Bamboo by itself is a sustainable material in general, but maybe it is easier to use it where it is locally available. So that is the
Correct.
best way. So the
Yeah.
best way is to start off with the place where you are, and what are the materials that are available there. Like in Kerala, there is laterite stone that is available easily. So a lot of buildings that are made with that.
So one solution fits all is not the approach for sustainability, I
No,
guess,
I
right?
don't think that's
To make anything sustainable, you have to keep the source resources as locally purchased or locally sourced, right? So as the distance is less, so it will tend to be more sustainable, I guess.
correct. So if you use compressed earth blocks, CSEB,
Mm-hmm.
compressed stabilized earth blocks, so there you can use the existing soil from the site itself and make these blocks and use that for the construction. So that is also a very good option, where you're not traveling anywhere to get the material. It's there from on the site.
Right. So we are at the end of this episode, and if you like to share your last thoughts, maybe in a minute for our viewers, so you can. If anything that we missed during the session, or you would like to close this session with, so please you can do it.
Do your bit for the environment. It will be nice if all of you plant a tree tomorrow as your contribution to the environment.
So that's really great, Raveena. Thank you so much for your time and your expert opinions on the what are green buildings. So definitely this will educate more youth and they will empower them with knowledge, because I think knowledge is the powerful tool for change. So thank you so much for your wonderful contribution. Thank you.
Thank you.